Rebecca is the founder and managing director of Bec Call Communication, Australia's leading consultancy for the school and early childhood education sector. Might be something in there, some marketing there that you could prick your ears up and pay attention to. Bec Call is meeting a new and rapidly growing demand for experienced communication strategy and training consultancy in the education sector. Clients include school groups, early childhood and outside school hours, education and care services, curriculum developers, peak bodies and government agencies. Originally a newspaper journalist, and there's none of those anymore, so that's why you're not doing that. Rebecca's education sector involvement includes many years leading media and communication teams for education agencies. She also has extensive experience working with and advising boards, state authorities, regulatory bodies and government ministers. And there's not a lot of those anymore. So, most recently, before founding Bec Call, Rebecca established and led all communication and stakeholder engagement functions for ASEQA from that agency's creation in 2011. Rebecca holds a graduate certificate in communication from Charles Sturt, and she received the Board of Studies Service Medal in 2010. I think that's very exciting. So today Rebecca's going to be speaking with you about marketing, open the gates, unlocking your preschool story. Over to you.
Thank you.
Where are we? Which one was it? It was the PDF, wasn't it? Sorry. Where's our full screen? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I did also get the excellence in horsekeeping when I was a brownie, so I think I've still got that one somewhere. Now, before I do go any further, so it doesn't rattle and you don't worry about what might be in the bag, chocolate's such an inspiration, isn't it? But I have to say, much as I love and adore community childcare in New South Wales and has always been one of my very favourites, even when Leanne was giving me a very hard time when I was working at ASEQA, I do think that tossing out a single Smartie here or there, it's a bit mean, isn't it? It's a bit mean. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Share that with the table? Take it home for the kids? I mean, come on. And what do we really think of when we think of chocolate? We think of Tim Tams. I'm just going to line these guys up. I think they'll stay put. This is real chocolate. This is how it's really done, lady. Just watch and learn. Watch and learn from the pro. A couple of these are actually Adriana Zumbo chocolates. Okay. Now, but I'm not going to tell you until the very end what you have to do for them. So no one else gets to leave early, all right? Because it's always so heartening when you're walking up to the stage and there's a stream of people walking by and you feel, oh man, yeah, thank you for the graveyard run, Leanne. I'll do my best.
Finally, I get my
Your revenge. Okay. So, this was a really interesting exercise for me because I've been working on this idea of unlocking your story for quite a while since I started working for myself at the beginning of last year. But I also have had this sense of storytelling for a very long time in a lot of other jobs, and so would you. I'm sure there isn't a person here who hasn't told a story, made up a story, read a story more times than you can count. In your daily life, in your personal life, we all do it because that's how humanity communicates, really, is through stories. Some stories are more interesting than others. A tax return tells a story. A census form tells a story. A bank statement tells a story. Unfortunately, a credit card statement also tells a story, particularly after a holiday. But there are stories that don't get told enough. And that's one of my real driving passions in working in education for as long as I have, is to try and get some of those stories unlocked out of this spectacular space that you've committed yourselves to and that you give so much to, and that your colleagues in long daycare and family daycare and in primary schools and secondary schools also give themselves to. That just tends to stay too often under lock and key. So, We'll come to more of that in a minute, but that's where we're coming from with the idea of opening up the gates and unlocking your story. But first of all, apart from all of that wonderful thing that I didn't expect Leanne to read out when I pasted it and sent it off in an email 3 weeks ago, here is who I really am. This is me. Now, I think it's very important that you see this photo because, like everyone who is not actually a teacher, I'm an education expert because I went to school. Okay? I know it all. I went to preschool. See? I had formal, probably high-quality preschool education, I'm sure, in a little farming town in Victoria. And since then, I've done a lot of time in school. The usual kind of HSC years and then working with teachers. I can speak teacher when I'm pressed. I speak vet. Not a lot of people speak vet, not all, own up to it anyway, but I can speak vet. If you need me to speak vet, you can come and see me quietly later on, but we won't tell anybody that you might be friends with. I can speak vet, I can speak NQF for my sins, and I can do all of these things, but I know for an absolute fact that I'm not a teacher. I'm not a person who thinks that I can do your job better than you can. What I do want to do is to help where I can to give you some of the things that come from my end of the world that I know translate. I've seen them work. I've seen them come across to yours. So on that note, I'll also say that like all non-journalists, you know how to be a professional communicator because you can talk on the telephone. So as long as we're clear, we've got a level playing field here. We have no monopoly on communication, I know that, but there are things that we know and things that we've tried and failed at and tried again and done well and done not so well that we like to share. So the other reason I've got this picture is that it will come up again at the end. So bear it in mind. It's probably also the only photo from my childhood where I had a straight fringe because my mother rapidly moved on to the sticky tape across the forehead, do the job at home model. So I quite like this one and I do try to use it whenever I can. Okay, now, so that's me. What's marketing? Oh, really? Marketing... You're quite entitled to say marketing's a load of hoo-ha, really. It's a load of hokum. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of carrying on with, jargon and weasel words and a lot of money, a lot of money, yeah? People knocking at your door saying we're going to do a video for your service. People knocking at your door saying we're going to redevelop your website. People knocking saying we're here for fixing up all of your SEO on your pages. Why don't you have a blog? Why aren't you advertising in the local paper? When was the last time you did a brochure with our printing company? You know you're not marketing unless you've got a brochure, that's for sure. It's a whole range of things, and I actually thought I might just ask, does anyone here have a very clear idea of what they think of as marketing in a preschool context? Word of mouth, yeah. Word of mouth is excellent. You can't buy it, unfortunately, so marketers tend to sort of dance around the edges of that one. But yes, selling your good points, also very, very important, yep, and definitely part of it, yep.
I think engaging in the language that your client base and future client base are using. So basically, forgetting about the brochures and the things, don't put it in the real estate agent. Use the tools that they're going to use.
Yeah. Yep, and if they are scary, and frequently they are. Does anyone here think that they're an expert in marketing their preschool? Is there anyone here who just wishes it would all go away and they could get on with what they're doing? Yes, of course. And everyone else, it's okay, we know you're lying. Marketing to me it's a very catch-all kind of term. it can be all of those things that we've just talked about. Because of the discipline that I come from, I tend to see it as a subset of communication, but you don't really need to make that distinction. People use marketing interchangeably with media, with engagement, with relationship building, with, you know, sustainable communities, with enrolments, with open days, you know, everything that you can think of that has some kind of outreach and presentation of what you do can be seen as marketing. Or you can have a very narrow definition and say it's only things you pay for. Or you can get into awful jargon like above the line and below the line, which I always mix up because journalist, not really marketer. But everyone markets, right? Everybody markets to some degree. Everybody, to a greater or lesser amount of success, says at some point what I do. You might have a LinkedIn profile and you've had to go through that torture of having to describe yourself and put your career up just to make those sorts of connections. You might have to go to council events and explain yourself to counsellors, what your background is, who you are. Anytime you've been in a job interview, you're marketing yourself. So let's hold those kinds of thoughts as well as we go through, because there's a really important bit of marketing that's very much my bread and butter that frequently gets missed in all of this. We go for the SEO, which is search engine optimization, for anybody sitting there going, why does she keep saying that? You know, we try different kinds of newsletters, we adopt different platforms on websites, we give it a try. We'll pay for that subscription to that directory and see if anybody comes along. It's not going to be a few hundred here and a few hundred there, and then how do we even know that we got anywhere? So marketing is all of those things, but there's something missing in it. We're getting to that too. Marketing is a bit of a mystery even to marketers. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you that at all. It's just like talking to advertisers. It's magic. You know, the penguins in Madagascar? You didn't see anything. It's that kind of a look. But they have evolved the smoke and mirrors to an incredible extent since the advent of social media and online communication. And I would certainly say, just be very aware that people who even sound like experts, apart from me, sound like experts, may not really have any kind of evidence-based credibility to what they're putting forward, unless they're telling you how it is that you can put together a really compelling story. Because that's the absolute essence of marketing, is a compelling story. So why then the open the gates? The open the gates, well, one reason is look what happens when we open gates, right? Look what happens in a preschool or a long daycare, or we open the gates, oh my God, they're off. The children are away. We have that sense of safety and security. We have this almost like a gated community culture in looking after young children, because you have to, it's important. But I do think sometimes that translates into a bigger picture of we're not just gated because of the children, we're gating all of us into this space because it's difficult to explain sometimes what you do. It can be hard to actually put yourself out there and say, I can justify every moment of my day in the value that I know I'm giving to these children that you might not even see for 15 more years, and you won't actually attribute back to me. You think that I'm playing with these children. I mean, who's had that? The playing, yeah? I'm playing. It's play-based learning. Oh, so you just play with them then, right? Yeah? You just play with them. So you're just looking after them. Oh, you only look after them from, what, 9 till 3? Oh, okay. All right, so it's not long daycare then. It's not like hard yards. No, okay. So even within education, you can get a bit of that, can't you? Education is a very hierarchical kind of culture. We start at the very top, ignoring universities altogether because they're on another stratosphere. But we start with the secondary school principals, then it's maths teachers. The only people in education not afflicted with the humble stick. And then Then we work our way through other executives at the secondary level, through the other teachers at a secondary level. Then you get primary school principals. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, a TAFE director might come in just under a primary school principal, but mostly not. So let's just move them along. Then the primary school teachers in order of year. Yes, I only do year 6. You can see how good I am. Year 6, that's me. Yeah. Or sometimes it's a flip. Sometimes it's, well, we do the kindies. Oh, I can't walk away from here, can I? We're the kindies, you know. We're the kindies. We've got our own special sort of locked area over the other side of the school. We have, you know, often the most music, the most fun coming out of what we are. I wouldn't teach anything but kindy if you paid me $1 million. Except if you actually did pay me $1 million. I'd teach anything you want. So it's very hierarchical. Then we've got the whole early childhood sector and the spectacularly tribal and gorgeous nature of it that I love to bits. Then poor old Osh coming in, or Ush, because I'm in New South Wales, Ush underneath. And then TAFE, you know, somewhere after that. And again, if anyone here wants to speak vet quietly with me later, just come and see me. So we've got this sort of, you know, closed space and this you know, cabin kind of feeling sometimes of education. And it's made physical by the safety gates and the fences that you have to have around your service. And I want you just to have a couple of thoughts while we go through this, and maybe something you can reflect on later as well, because we don't have time to go into the whole thinking behind it. But when you're thinking about a gated concept, there's danger and safety are the most obvious things. You know, it's danger outside, safety inside. And again, from a child point of view, it's very, very easy to understand that. But there's also, from the adult professional point of view, outside the education space, there's judgment, there's lack of appreciation, there's undervaluing, there is competition and inequitable approaches being pushed into, well, you're not all the same, you know. We're going to measure you up, we're going to assess you, we're going to publish the results. All of that happens outside. Inside, we've got our peers, we've got people who understand us, we've got people who speak the same language, we've got people who know at least, you know, most of what we're going through, and we've got a sense of security ourselves as people within an educational area. So hold that thought, think about it later on, and I'll be interested, especially if we get some time, which I think we will at this stage, to talk to you, see if anyone's got any questions or thoughts on that later on. So we've got the opening the gates, we've got the marketing concept, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the mechanics. Now, no one knows the way around a car like Mr. Bean, right? Marketing, to try an analogy on you, marketing is a mechanical process. It is the bits and pieces of what you might put out to demonstrate your worth, to create interest in what you do. And it is the channels and the structures that you might use for that: direct mail, phone calls, postcards, street stalls, open days, websites, emails, all of those bits and pieces, whether you can touch them or not, they are things that you build, and that's marketing. But like building a car, which I suspect, you know, you could do fairly easily if you had the right gear and enough time and some good IKEA type instructions. Like that, if you don't have fuel in the car, it's not going anywhere. You're stuck. It's a nice car and it's shiny, and someone who walks past it might look at it and ask you about your car, but unless you've actually got fuel in the car, it ain't moving. And the fuel, in my analogy, is your story. It's your storytelling. It is the essence of what makes you different and makes you interesting, what makes you worth the attention from the shiny car observers out there. And the other thing that a car needs is that it's all very well to go for a Sunday drive. Did anyone here have parents who used to take you for a Sunday drive? Oh, Lord. I had 2 brothers and bench seat in the back and don't touch me and he's looking at me and we're all off for a lovely Sunday drive. I just don't know what they were thinking. But a Sunday drive can be nice, you know. You can have your marketing gear out there, it can have a little meander, it can wander around, it can be tracked on your Google Analytics and you go, oh, that's interesting, not sure what it means, but it's interesting. But without a destination, you can't tell whether you've got there. You need a map, you need a destination, and you need to know, now even if the destination is coming back home again, which apparently it was for my parents, you need to be able to track that, to know where you've got to. So over the top of the mechanics of marketing, you need to be thinking, what am I going to fuel this with? It's not enough just to be. It's not enough just to exist as a static thing that's a car on the street that some people will see and a lot of people never will, or won't even know that if they turned the corner it was there. And it's not enough just to put the fuel in it, have some great stories, and just go wandering off. Because apart from the fact that your children will hate you and never want to go for a Sunday drive themselves ever in their lives, it does mean that you just won't have any measurement of your success. So you need to come up with a sort of strategy behind it. It needs to fit in with something like your QIP, your aims in your quality improvement plans, in any other business strategies that you may have, in any other community strategies that you may have. It needs to have a purpose. Brochures without purpose drive me insane, and anyone who's got one that wants to share it with me, I'm really happy to sympathise with you and give you some ideas. Now, so that's the next bit of what we're getting to now, is how do we make this fuel? Because you probably feel, let's just test that, who thinks that they can tell the story of their service in 3 sentences? 3 sentences of around 25, 30 words each. No? So if you can't, then you're not ready yet. And what we're going to do, and the handout that you've got, I hope will help you. And again, after this, it's available on my website. You can download extra copies if you want and have a play with it. But after this, if you do have questions about how I might go about it, come back to me by my email or phone and I'll do what I can to help you out. What we're going to do is to go into the fundamentals of building a story. This is where being a journalist kicks marketing's butt, because when I was a newspaper journalist back in the day, when there actually were some, thanks Leanne for pointing out every career I've had is now effectively defunct. And by the way, no one cares about spelling anymore either. But back in the day, my editor, because I did a cadetship, and my editor sat me down on my first day, and I was expecting, I don't know, something wild and crazy, like some kind of training. And he gave me a portable typewriter, from which I still have a ganglion on my wrist, and he gave me a book called 25 Words or Less. And he said, there you go. And I booked you to go out with a photographer at 10 o'clock. So that was the beginning for me of taking what had been this sort of bright, shiny, wonderful thing that I loved to do as a teenager of writing, and talking probably too much, and turning it into a career. 25 words or less. The idea is that when you're good at the game, you should be able to answer all 6 of those questions on any given matter in 25 words or less. Now, I'm much kinder to people when I do formal media training with them, or we work on press releases and things. I say if you can do 3 in the first sentence and 3 in the second sentence, then you're doing really well. If you can do all 6 of them in 2 sentences of under 30 words each, then, you know, you get a pat on the back, but not a whole packet of Tim Tams. So when we've got on the sheets there, the who, what, where, when, how and why, it's not about writing a media story. It's about stepping back from yourself, from your preschool, from your families, and thinking, well, for a particular story, not for everything, this isn't a cure, you would do this over and over again till it's second nature. from that perspective of what is the story, let's say the story is I need to find more 4-year-olds. So the who for that is initially on the front page I've said for you. So for me, what's my problem? I'm a preschool director. What is my problem? Looking for 4-year-olds. Where do I need them? I need them here, soon. When? Soon. And how? Well, we need to decide what the strategy is there, okay? The how might be we've got an open day. The how might be we're going to the local show because we're going to put out things in the baby animal area, try and get people through that way. And the why is, well, from you, remember this first sheet is about you. The why is because I've got to fill these places and I've got to be viable and I want those children. I want them in here so I can help those children and be part of their families and their development. If you flip over, the questions for them are exactly the same. Who are they? Well, who are they really? Are you really going for the 4-year-olds? You're not. You're going for mums, dads, guardians, grandparents, neighbours. That word of mouth. Who said the word of mouth? And there, yeah, word of mouth is what you are going for predominantly. But you're going to try and find some tools to get in there. Before you can do that, you're going to have your story right for them. So what are they looking for? Well, their who is themselves and their child or children. It's not you. You're not on the radar, otherwise they'd be at your door already. Their what is, maybe we should do something. They look a bit bored. Maybe they're not even aware of them being bored. Maybe their what is just, I have a child who is 4 years old. It may not even be more than that. Unless they know that they've got a need, you can't fill it. So be prepared to take this in baby steps, that they don't even know that they need you yet, right? So this is where these sorts of questions help you to get that process going as well. So the who and the what, the where, well, hopefully you've got some idea of where they are. But if you don't, then maybe the where is out there. I'm writing this on behalf of the person I'm imagining. They're out there somewhere. Maybe they are people I'm seeing picking up older children at the primary school. Maybe they are going, with a younger child through the baby health clinic. But they're out there somewhere. I know that they must be there. So how am I going to go? Maybe they're in the next town that doesn't have a preschool like you, but people come in for shopping because you're in the bigger centre. So the who, what, where. The how, again, back to strategy. What are you going to do to try and get them? Well, you're going to try and get them to enrol, one way or the other, or to come to an open day. So, and then the why, that's where your educational value comes in. For them, the why is the need that they may not know they've got yet, which is to better prepare their child, not just for school, but for life, for that high quality early childhood education that you know you can give, but these little ones out there are not receiving. So you'll work that through with your questions. Those are your basics, basics. Don't try and be too fancy with any of that. And, photocopy a dozen of these if you want, or just take them offline and, have a look at it and write some notes for yourself, or get some of your staff to have a think about it, give some of your families to think. You'll build up a picture of who these people are that you're not reaching, and you'll also build up a better picture of who you are, you/preschool, you and your job, your staff and their jobs. You'll work that picture up, and it's going to come in handy with what the next bit is that I'm going to talk to you about. So over on the next page, we've got this list we should be seeing of hero. It starts with a hero, right? What are the fundamental elements of a story? Now, I can't claim that this is anything special from me. This is really common. These elements of storytelling in marketing and in media and in Disney movies and in novels and in magazine articles. These are the common elements, and if you start reading after you've had a look at this, if you read with that sense and in a magazine story or watch a movie, you'll see them coming through over and over again. There's a hero's journey always. So you start with the hero and her goal. We're going to say her because it's Wonder Woman up there is our hero of the day. Wonder Woman's goal, I'm sorry, yes, I meant to say, the hero ain't you. You've got a part coming up to play, but the hero is not you in this one. So you've got your hero. You've got somebody who is going to be the centre of this story. And it's going to be a story that you can use in a lot of different places. And that hero has a goal. And in this case, let's say that goal is my child. I want my child to be happy. You know, I want them to be glowing with happiness and cleverness and, you know, that clever little look that's coming through from child over there. I want them to be, you know, socially well behaved. I want them to be ready to go into a more structured environment at school. I want them to not drive me insane because they've been at home with me forever. You know, so all of those things. What are their goals? Play with it. Have a think about it. Look back on stories. Look back on why people have said to you that they either came to you in the first place or how they left feeling after their child has gone on into other ages of education. So we need a hero, and the hero is going to be someone that you can help. And why will you need to help them? Because, oh no, they've got a conflict. They might not know it yet, but they do. They have a problem, and their problem is, in this case, probably that they aren't enrolled with you. Simple as that. They need to be with you, right? Nobody else, you. Your preschool, your place, all the wonderful things you can do for them. But they don't know that yet. So what might the problem look like from their end? Well, again, the problem might look like, my kids are so bored. My older one can't bear the fact that I've got a baby at home. My youngest one can't bear the fact that all the, you know, his older brother's now gone to school and he's, you know, kicking his heels all day. It might be really mundane, day-to-day kind of stuff like that. It might be we've got a child with special needs and we've been told that you know, I can't put him anywhere or her anywhere because no one can cater for my child. They might have misinformation that's stopping them from moving along. So you need to think about what are those kinds of conflicts that might have arisen in their lives. And the fundamental thing you want to do with that is change that conflict. You want it to affect a change in their behaviour, and that's fundamental marketing as well. You want to see a change in their behaviour. It could also be, just as a note, not a parent scenario at all that you're talking about with the hero in this story. You might be talking about the person who's in charge of funding a particular grants program. You might be talking about the bank manager who you think maybe you could sponsor something that you need to get done at your service. You might be talking about even the way that perhaps you approach certainly the way you approach media, but possibly even the way that you're approaching the assessment is telling a story to your staff, with your staff, about yourselves and how you fit into that whole concept of a storytelling. So, this one is you. You are the mentor in every great story. You are a combination of Yoda and the guy from Karate Kid who... That's it. Yeah, I love that, snapping the fighters out of the air with the chopsticks. And they don't... one of the critical things about a mentor is that your hero doesn't have to trust you in the first place. And in fact, that's quite common, that you don't trust your mentor in the first place. Luke Skywalker didn't think Yoda was much chop at anything. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm really scratching backwards now, but, you know, the Karate Kid didn't believe Mr. what's his name? Miyagi. So there's a whole lot of background there that you can draw on as well. You're not their mentor because they've come to you and said, please help me. You're their mentor because you know you've got something that they need, whether they know it or not. And how you put that out there, it's a very helpful construct to think about mentoring or leading, not in a staffing sense, but leading the thinking in your area around early childhood, participating in that, finding your way into primary principals meetings. So, you know, they conference like nobody's business. Finding your way in there, finding your way in through the Catholic schools, also really strong structure around networking and getting together. Finding the independent schools, looking for peers and colleagues in other places and looking for their ideas, what's worked for you, sharing that. Now, you've got your Yahoo group, but how many people here are on, say, the New South Wales Early Childhood Teachers on Facebook? Yeah, a few. There are some, wherever your chosen place is, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or the Yahoo group or Twitter, you know, there will be groups that you can tap into and share ideas with in a really pretty safe kind of a way to do that. So that's you being mentored by others, but how do you mentor the people who are coming to you? Well, you've got to be able to present what you do with confidence, you know, with authority. The Karate Kid's pretty impressed by the whole chopsticks and the fly act, as I recall. You know, Yoda's a funny little green guy until he suddenly whips out a lightsaber. You know, your lightsaber is your expertise, but it's got to be coupled with your ability to share that expertise, right? So if you look at the things that you bring as being an expert, but cast them into the idea of mentoring parents, mentoring families. I caught a little bit of a video that was being played before where one of the preschool directors here, or colleague of yours perhaps, was talking about, you know, accompanying families to the paediatrician and that sort of. It can take that form, but it doesn't have to. So you can be, you know, physically present in people's lives above and beyond the preschool area, but it doesn't have to be. You are also experts in what you do, far more than, you know, me standing up here and cheekily using our and us every now and then. You are real experts, and what we want to do is be able to get you to share that expertise. It doesn't make you arrogant. It doesn't mean that you've got, you know, tickets on yourself. It doesn't mean that you're going to get cut down like a tall poppy. It means that you need to find that way through, find the places where you can do it and the people you can do it with, where you can be a helpful mentor. Okay. So, moving on. We want to get to this bit, right? So, so mentoring. Think about it when you're doing this. It might take a few goes to conceive that, but your fundamental role as a mentor is to help the hero reach their goals through conflict, whatever that conflict might be. That's your job. And then at the end of all this, in your thinking at least, there needs to be some kind of moral. There's some sort of moral coming along. It could be that only you can prevent forest fires. That's a kind of moral, right? It could be the Aesop's fables type moral, slow and steady wins the race. It could be a wisdom quote from Shakespeare with the love all, trust a few, do wrong to none. Interesting that people usually put a full stop to there, but the last bit is be able to thine enemy, which I suspect is be ready to clock them if they sneak up behind you. But we leave that one off because it's quite a peaceful quote otherwise. So what I picked out there from Fiona Stanley, that's a moral as well. And that's a moral that's very relevant to all of you. It's something that, you know, so many people in the sector are trying to get across, that the value of early childhood is so lasting, continues for so long, that it is the best possible investment that can be made by government, by individuals, and that you're there to help carry it out. You're it. You know, it's no point in the government pouring millions more dollars. I mean, you know, bless them if they do. If they keep, say, the PPL levy, and suddenly there is a fountain of money pouring into early childhood, you know, it's no good if there aren't the people to actually deliver, don't you? So that's one thing. Box that up and set it aside. On the upside, you're here now and you're ready to do that. So in your discussions with MPs, in your discussions with families, in your discussions with colleagues even, be boosting that idea. Pick it up. You are ready to help show this moral of the story comes true. Okay. And just as I did this very quickly, just as a kind of exercise myself to test it out. If we bring all of those things from before, the who, what, where, when, how and why, and the hero, the goal, the conflict, the mentor and the moral together, there's 3 sentences there. I can tell you straight away none of them is more than 30 words because, you know, expert. But they are words that actually have a moral tone. They are words that say, we're here for you. Not a moralising tone, but a moral in the sense of we've reached an inevitable conclusion here that if you trust, you will land at this place. You trust us, you work with us, you'll see what we've done, you'll see what we can do, and we'll be able to help you reach your goal, which is for, I chose girls in this case, which is for your daughter. We will be able to get you there. So that is where, if you work your way through those sheets, and please flick me questions because it's, you know, you're getting 30 years condensed into 6 pages down there. And I don't expect it all to make sense straight away. But you are, if you do go through that, I'd hope that you can come up with something for each kind of person that you want to reach that looks like that. Then go to your tools. Then, you know, maybe let the guy with the video camera come in through the door. Then, you know, ring up the paper and say, what would an ad look like and how much would it cost? Or take the brochure, because you'll have the fuel to go in those cars. You won't be just, you know, buying a white elephant and letting it sit there and thinking, why did I blow the money on that? You will have something that you can take. You can use it with the media. You can say, I would turn that into a media release by saying, let me think, I'm writing for the Dubbo Daily Liberal and I want to make this newsworthy, and I have had a parent say to me, do you know what, our little girl, when she came to you, she wouldn't speak to anyone outside the family. She was so shy and she had imaginary friends and she didn't socialise well. And she'd been at home with me by herself for the first 3.5 years of her life. And by the time she left you and went to school, she was in a friendship group who travelled with her. She could perform at the Christmas concert and the end of the year. And her kindy teacher has just given her a special award for being the most, I don't know, cooperative girl in the class. If you got a testimonial like that from a parent, even informally on the street, you could take that and put it into a media release format with those sorts of phrases, that sort of language. Children who come to the Dubbo Central Preschool, and sorry if one of you is a Dubbo Central person, I'm just verballing you here, to a Dubbo Central Preschool, if you do this, this is what our parents say. They say that children who are shy become confident. Children who are boisterous learn how to modify their behaviour. I don't want to push it too far on that, but that, you know, by the time those children go to school, those kindergarten teachers are saying, these kids aren't afraid to try anything. They'll try, they'll fail, they'll get up and they'll give it another go, and that's the kind of learner that we want. That's what that process will give you, believe it or not. Now, just really quickly, because I'm getting a little bit past my own time here. So if we go just to the very final part, there's 2 pages because I've left more room for writing. It is about simplifying. Simplifying, simplifying, simplifying. Now, simplifying does not mean dumbing down. In all of my many years working with people from spectacular educational backgrounds, one of the greatest sins that I have ever been, I have been many times accused of, is you just want to dumb it down. It's more complicated than that. Yes, it is. It's more sophisticated than that, absolutely. There's much more to it than that, for sure there is. If you can't get them through the door in the first place, you're never going to get to explain that at all, right? So It's not dumbing down to take just the most important parts for that family and put them out there, or for families and put them out there, or for counsellors, or for MPs, or for the media and put them out there. Putting out the hook of the simple ideas, early childhood or a preschool. A preschool education is the greatest gift you can give to a child. Full stop. Access to an affordable preschool program is the greatest gift that the community can give to itself. That sort of thing. Yeah, look, there's mountains of detail behind that. And it is a generalisation, and there are probably some preschools out there that you would be including in that statement that you don't really feel like including. But if you don't get something simple and direct out there, and with a bit of colour to it, and with a hero, and a bit of conflict, and a bit of before and after conflict, and, you know, then and now, preschool's changed. It wasn't like this when you were at preschool, now it is. If you can't get that out there, you won't get the chance to explain the complex. They won't come to your website, or if they do, they'll bounce straight off again. They won't read your newsletter. You'll spend half your life repeating what you've already put out in notes and newsletters. No, bit of a laugh, yes. Who feels like that? Who feels like they spend half their life repeating? Yeah. You know, you do it. You do all that work. You put it all out there. And people say they like your newsletter. No, we love your newsletter. It's great. Of course they do. They're not going to offend you. But also, they might love it, but that doesn't mean that they're reading it. And if they read it, it doesn't mean that they've understood it. And if they've understood it, it doesn't mean they're going to act on it. And that, as we know, is a full process of communication. Anyway, so the point of an image like this is to really drive home the idea of colour and of packing a whole lot of messages, some of them subconscious, into a single image. Now, you could do this with anything, but I do this because it came up on my Facebook feed at about 6 o'clock in the morning while I was getting the Year 7s ready to go off to their separate camps. So, and I went, oh, I like that. The story behind this is a complicated one. The Save the Rhino image is actually partially funded by the Save the Bees project. Now, the Save the Bees project doesn't really get a mention there unless, and the lights aren't great for this, unless you can see that above the Save the Rhino hashtag on the left there is a bee. And the bee is helping to sew the patchwork rhino. And over on the other side, I'm just not good enough at art, but that Hunto is an Italian friend of Louis who did the rest of the picture. So whatever was in Hunto's mind is some sort of toy arrangement over there, is also helping to sew up the toy rhino. And it's a beautiful rhino, it's a patchwork rhino. I've seen similar ones myself, you probably have too, and you get them in those catalogues. The message is that soon only the toys will be left. Now, it filters through that message, doesn't it? Because it is Save the Rhino. But the idea that we're not doing this with gory horns hacked out, we're not doing it with majestic beasts across the plains, we're doing it with something that we're all much more likely to have related to, which is a toy animal. And oh my goodness, imagine if only the toys were left, right? So then it starts to get beyond, oh, isn't that beautiful? I love that picture, I want to see it, into a real message. And then if you do, which I did because I really wanted to know about this, not everyone will, click through, you find out that it's actually part of this Save the Bees project, which is the same message. That, you know, there are terrible problems going on with endangerment for bees in particular in America, but in Australia and other countries as well. And how bad would it be if we only had a toy bee left in a few years? So the bee is there helping out the rhino. There are messages upon messages, layers upon layers upon layers. This is actually a piece of graffiti art. And, you know, there's no shortage of murals out there in early education land. Maybe that's a thought to have as well. Maybe some of those murals need to get a bit, you know, lowercase p political around the value of early childhood. But it's a good image for this process because it's colour and it's layers of meaning within what's apparently a very simple first impression. So on to the good stuff. Right. The other way, the other reason that I included that photo at the beginning, and I was very glad I did again because I was listening to the video that you were playing before the funding session. That quote from the lady saying, "I always wished I'd followed the children who've been through, because in 20 years, you know, I wish I knew what they were doing now, because I'm sure that it's going to be good, you know, or better or special." It was a lovely thing that she said. Up in the top left hand there is Mrs. Rossi. I'm actually not quite sure how Mrs. Rossi spelled her name, because I was 4 and 5 when I knew her. And this is Merrigham Preschool down in the irrigation country in Victoria. And the only reason I have these lovely photos is because I think, you know, they would have gone the way of a lot of things being lost over the years, but it happened to be my birthday that it was the preschool photo day. And so I don't know any of those other children there in those pictures. I wouldn't have a clue. We left Merrigham when I was 6 after my first year of school, but I am never going to forget Mrs. Rossi. And I'm pretty sure that all of you are in a Mrs. Rossi chair for the children that you see as well. So I wanted to give you that, in as much as it sometimes people don't know what they've done. You can only hope. And I want you to know that I'm absolutely certain that you are Mrs. Rossi's to so many other children who are sitting there on toy phones or digging, and that you will be very much remembered and valued. And that's the story that we're going to start telling now. Okay? All right, now, the Tim Tams. Here we go. What I was thinking was, now I'm just Joe Public. I am boring old Rebecca Lloyd, who was Rebecca Dethridge at that stage, and I was this kid who was talking on a phone, and no one's going to invite me back to Merrigham to do anything for them. But what if I was someone really famous? What if I was someone really famous? So, quick table exercise. Googling is allowed. Get together. Who can come up with? All of these are very famous people. I want you to see if you can name them. Okay? Buy the table. No, none of them are Australian, I'll give you that much. None of them are Australian. And they're all involved in entertainment. There's no politics. Okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes. If a table gets all 4, then they get a whole packet of Tim Tams. If no one gets all 4, we will just share them out. No Australians and all entertainers. All entertainers, no Australians. Don't give it away. I think there's some sort of chocolate hormone-fueled drive happening at that table. No one's getting out of here unless I've got Tim Tams. Okay, 30 seconds. Ten. It was as short as 32. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Has anyone, we've got to write them down quickly? Take a guess, just take a stab. Give me 4 names. Oh, okay. George Clooney. Does anyone think they've got all 4? Tim Tams are going to have to be shared. Okay. Does anyone think they've got more than George Clooney? Sorry?
Brad Pitt.
No, close. I nearly did Brad Pitt. Sorry, was it only Brad Pitt?
And C. James Belushi.
Nope.
Jennifer Lopez.
No.
Ellen DeGeneres.
No, you're going to laugh. Yes. Okay. So I can tell you that B and D are taken. So George Clooney at the top and Leonardo DiCaprio at the bottom. A and C are both women. Both women? Nope, not Madonna. Nope. No. Okay. All right. I think we just accept that we're going to be sharing these Tim Tams. We're sharing these Tim Tams, but we can start with the chocolate table because you were so keen. Okay. Okay. All right. Cher and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep. Okay, so I'll be opening up the packets of Tim Tams and putting them on the... actually, I might put them down the front here, so please come and get some, okay? In the meantime, that's what I'm going to leave you with, one of the classic stories of all time. The A was Meryl Streep. Little Red Riding Hood. So I'm just going to urge you all, open that gate, get out there into the woods, go find your grandma, save her, and enrol those wolves cubs in a decent preschool program. Okay? Turn the generations around. Thank you very much.